This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
It's Super Bowl week, so let's start off with the Super Bowl Top 5. Top 5 things to watch for this week, matchup-wise, in Super Bowl 56. Number 5, Sean McVay versus Zach Taylor. Both of them young coaches. Zach Taylor, obviously, not at this quite as long as Sean McVay, but this is now where the NFL is kind of steering, and these are young coaches. I think the chess match offensively between these two guys will be interesting, but also the hiring that it set off is, if you look around the NFL, there's two guys who you consider older coaches, and Doug Peterson and Lovie Smith. And Doug Peterson, not that old, but all the other coaches are in their 40s or very early 50s.
Lovey's in his 60s.
Yeah.
Because he's my age.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the gray beard.
One thing about Zach Taylor compared to McVay is Zach Taylor's not an attention, not, like somebody that it seems like, I'm not saying McVay goes out of his way, but you're a low-key guy against somebody that kind of sometimes likes probably to think he's pretty good.
Well, I mean,
he got his team in a Super Bowl again.
Yeah, one of them's in Chunky Soup commercials and one of them's not. Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, these two work together on the Rams staff.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Yeah, so, familiarity there. And, yeah, just two hot-shot young coaches. I mean, McVay's almost like a veteran now at this point, it feels like.
Yeah, he is.
And yet he's, I think, younger than me probably still. But, yeah, I mean, two really good young coaches. There's a lot of reason to believe that they're just really getting started, quite frankly, even though they're in this position. Taylor in particular, because his team's just so young and this is so brand new. But, yeah, looking forward to seeing two friends duel it out.
Number 5, the Bengals defensive backs versus Cooper Kupp and OBJ. I think this is one of the bigger mismatches in the game, namely because one of the Bengals defensive backs is Eli Apple and is not going to be met very well. And I'm leaving out Van Jefferson in this as well, who's played pretty well for the Rams. They're doing this without Robert Woods, and they probably wouldn't have OBJ if Robert Woods is still healthy, but having Cooper Kupp and OBJ and the way that Odell Beckham Jr. has been playing since he got to the Rams with a renewed sense of purpose and engagement. Let's face it, he was not engaged in Cleveland, and he wasn't engaged in the last season in New York. But here he is engaged and excited, and they're getting the most out of him right now. But this one, to me, is pretty exciting. And I'm saying all this, and right now you think, Rams lean in almost everything I'm saying, but there's something about this Bengals team, but this is one of those matchups I don't like if I'm the Bengals.
No, I don't like any other defensive matchups all that well. I mean, against this Rams offense, and yeah, it's scary when Odell Beckham's like the guy. Oh yeah, they got Odell Beckham too. It's almost like he's not even at the forefront of your mind when you talk about the Rams. But oh yeah, he's on that roster as well. Yeah, I do worry about Cincy's defense. That's why I'm kind of leaning Rams right now. It's just I have a hard time. Just seeing how that goes their way. I don't know. I don't like that matchup, but Cooper Kupp's a menace. Odell's still plenty great. I mean, the Rams offense is really good, and Stafford's going to air it out. So, yeah, the Bengals DBs are going to be absolutely crucial in this game. And, if Eli Apple wins, we won't hear the end of it. We will not hear the end of that, but you know what? He's going to have his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
Yeah. If Eli Apple's mom sees this, I'm sure I'll hear from her on Twitter. Number 3, the Rams acquisitions making a difference. Look, the two in-season ones are Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller, two bigger names at their positions you probably couldn't get as far as popularity. And, of course, Von Miller far surpasses Odell Beckham Jr. when it comes to accomplishment in the league. But those are big. Matt Stafford. They have mortgaged their future for this game, for this one right here, and maybe one more after that, but it's going to be hard to keep all these people in the boat in L.A. Because of the salary cap. But this is all about Sunday's game and getting Beckham Jr., Von Miller. I'm sure there's other people I'm leaving out. They went out and got a lot of people. Jalen Ramsey a couple years ago, Matt Stafford, like I mentioned before. This is all about Sunday.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing how they've been able to nab all this talent. The way they've been able to just work the market and bring in big name after big name after big name. It's like, how is this even possible? Like, how are you even able to swing this with the rules of the NFL? But I mean, they've managed to do it. But all for now, all for this game. If they win this game, then it will all have been worth it. If they don't win this game, then it will somewhat be worth it just because you got to this point. But no, I mean, they went and got all those star-studded, multi-time Pro Bowler, MVP-type players because of this run right here. And so, it's all been built into this. And, credit to them for going out and being aggressive. But, yeah, they're not going to be able to hold this team together for much past the next game because there's a lot of money that's going to be owed to a lot of these guys.
You know what? I beg for a chance. My favorite team, who has not been in the conversation truly since 91. 92 Cowboys just ended all that. Washington won it in 91, and they were good in 92. And a couple of I'd do that for 1 year.
Yeah,
I'd do the old Miami Marlins for a year.
Yeah, that's why they're doing it.
But again, they've tried that and it's failed, and it's set them back 3 or 4 different times. So this is good for them if they can do it and win it with it.
They built with enough young players to then go get veterans. Like that's what Les Snead did in LA. All right, number 2, the Rams D-line versus the Bengals O-line. The best player on the field at any position in this game is Aaron Donald.
Yep. In fact, Papa DiGiorio just asked that. He's the best player on the field.
He is. And look, the maybe second best player on the field at any position is Von Miller. And you throw that in with Leonard Floyd, all there. That's another free agent acquisition, by the way, Leonard Floyd by the Rams. That is tough for a Bengals O-line that has, even though in these wins throughout the playoffs, struggled mightily keeping Joe Burrow upright at times. And that is going to be the matchup to watch, and that's going to swing this game, I think, one way or the other. If the Bengals O-line can make this happen and slow down that front, which they've gotten kind of better each week, but if they look like they did against the Titans or the Raiders, then it's going to be a long night because Aaron Donald is going to eat.
You see that play when he had to make a play in that game again? Oh, my, I just went blank. He is his motor. He reminds me of the
Niners,
NFL version
Niners,
of Jackson Player.
Yeah.
You know, the motor that never ends. Yeah, against the Niners.
Jackson Player's idol. So,
Yeah, I don't like this matchup at all. This is the one I hate the worst. If I'm a Bengals fan, I don't see how they fix it. I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work, and I just, in 2 weeks' time, you can't overhaul your O-line. I mean, it's been good enough to get to this point, so maybe they can eke it out again, but this is one of those that makes me lean towards the Rams, is this matchup in particular.
But they gave up just 1 sack against Kansas City, and they have a really good defensive front, too, with Jones and all them, and 1 sack for 7 yards, and, he used his legs to get out of trouble a couple of times, so that will be...
you're going to have to do it again.
You have to do it a lot.
You're going to have to do it a whole bunch.
This could be one of those where he gets sacked 7, 8, 9 times and doesn't survive like he did in that game earlier this year.
Yeah. And number 1, the young buck versus the old stag. And Joe Burrow, who is as calm and cool and, Joe Montana-esque as anybody. I think
that's a good analogy,
because Joe Montana was that way. That was Joe Montana's real. You look at all the things. Like, did Joe Montana have the best arm? No, he had a really good arm. He was really accurate, but he was mobile, but he wasn't Randall Cunningham mobile. But his biggest gift was his leadership and the fact that nothing could rattle him. Nothing could rattle him at all. Half the stadium could have fallen into the ocean, and he'd been like, "All right, well, I guess those people aren't watching the game.
We have another half of the field to still be able to play."
Exactly. I mean, just so
there's still fans in the stands,
and that's how Joe Burrow is. I would not say that necessarily about Matt Stafford. Not that he's frantic or anything, but this is a guy in Matt Stafford who has, by years of toiling with the Lions, earned his way here, for sure. And the moment for these guys, neither of them have been in it, despite the fact that Stafford's been in the league for a long time and Joe Burrow's in his 2nd year. So we'll see. Joe Burrow's been on the second biggest stage with winning the national championship. Matt Stafford's never been on either of those, but he's been in the NFL a long time. I'm really curious to see how this plays out and who has and who wins this game because of these two guys.
Yeah, Bengals aren't winning without Joe Burrow having a great game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's for sure. I think the Rams could still win without Stafford having a great game. Like, I feel Burrow has to win this more than Stafford has to win this based on the pieces around them. But, by no means do I think either quarterback can afford to have a poor game. But, yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford, talk about from the outhouse to the penthouse. all those years in Detroit, and just a very short time. All it took was just a little move to L.A., and here he is on the biggest stage of them all. And then Joe Burrow, I mean, he's Joe Cool. I mean, like y'all are talking about with Montana. I mean, nothing flusters this guy. He's got a legend that's been building now for, a couple of years, and it just seems like nothing gets to him or rattles him. If anything, you punch him in the mouth, and it actually makes him angrier and better somehow. So, yeah, this will be a fascinating matchup, and well, obviously the quarterback role always plays a key role in the outcome. But I think in this game in particular, it really will come down to probably the quarterback that plays the best and is able to deal with adversity the best. And I think Burrow's probably going to face a lot more than Stafford will have to in his grill, but he's built to handle it so far.
Tonight, Kansas at Texas. Texas, as you heard, Aaron Torres was talking about this earlier. They're kind of at some point has been a slight favorite at home, and Kansas then back in front. So that's going to be a hell of a game. Texas